The children already here, lucky they've got their backs to each other.
Yeah, wave to Trish.
Wave to Trish on the camera.
Hi Trish.
Okay,
And you put sweets on the table.
Sorry?
And you put sweets on the
Some
table.
sweets, and they've all got to be eaten actually. Okay, right, thank you for coming. I just waited for Caitlin, so I'm sure she'll just come in and sit herself down at a nameplate. I'm just going to go through what we're going to do today. Okay, it looks like a bit of a jolly, but it's actually going to be quite hard work. You're actually going to work, and unfortunately we only have past 4, which Emma's raised to me. I was quite a bit over it, but actually now, is it really 4:30, not 4:30? It is, because we just couldn't pack anything else in until 4 o'clock, could we, Gina? So, Gina, do you want to introduce yourself now?
Yeah, I'm Gina Bars, and I see Worth clients and some of the Worth clients and their children at Crawley. My involvement in Worth started in late 2009, and after some initial talks with Caitlin, I worked with Mel and Trish to set up a counselling service in its current form. Yes, I work out at Crawley, the SARC Centre, and when I'm not doing counselling with Worth clients and their children, I do courses for foster parents in Sussex and London, things like child protection, responding and understanding self-harm, challenging behaviour, substance misuse, that sort of thing. Foster parents and residential childcare staff. So that's my basic background.
Thank you. Welcome to Caitlin. Actually, you're lucky that Gina was speaking, because you'd have got the whole blowy bit. Okay, so I'm going to read out the agenda, we're going to do so, but our general aim of the day is this isn't anything that you learn today, it isn't to go away at the moment and put it to practice, okay? What we're, alongside with Caitlin's 2020 and the whole Think family, this is when management, will make some changes into our service, but eventually we will be looking at the bigger picture of the family, and that bigger picture has got to involve the children. And we've been very focused to work with victims for as long as we've been in this service, because we've been an adult victim-led service. But obviously the world's moving forward, we need to move forward with it. But nothing really will be adopted. This isn't a training day as such, this is more of an informative day around let's start looking and start being aware of the huge effects of domestic abuse on children. Because, as you know, my passion is to have a complete county-wide service for every child that has witnessed or experienced domestic abuse. I mean, that would take millions and millions and millions of pounds to fund, but, hopefully in 10 or whatever many years, that funding will be available. And the work that Gina and our counsellors are doing at the moment, we've got currently 6 counsellors on board.
6 in total.
6
freelance counsellors.
Yeah.
And a number of those counsellors are play therapists, so they can work with children of any age.
So Caitlin probably, I suppose, we'd say is a founder of this, because Caitlin alerted us to the good work that Gina's doing, and then we started from there. And since Gina, we've taken on 5 more counsellors. And talking to along the line with Corinne and Trish, we would be looking that we need more counsellors. But as we say, it all depends on money. But this is just an awareness day, okay? But we are going to be looking long term into the effects of domestic abuse on children, because children's services come in, and once the risk is removed, be the relationships ended or the perpetrators in prison, that them children still go on to experience the horrific effects and the aftermath. So actually there was a huge gap, I would think nationally, but certainly in West Sussex there's a huge gap about what happens to those children when the risk is gone, which is what we're doing with Gina and other counsellors. And we're going to soon start, my PDR for this year is to just do a pilot on a small amount of children, and that's probably 10 to 15, which we are working with at the moment. And we've got a meeting soon to look at how do we evaluate that, and that's why I'm working with Gina, because it's all about evaluation. Unless we can actually prove what we've done with these children, there wouldn't ever be more funding. So we've got to evaluate, and evaluating children is quite a difficult thing to do. But at the moment we are probably working on the very high end, so children that we can almost predict will be in our drug and alcohol services, our mental health services, our substance misuse services, and our youth offending services. And children that are not in mainstream education, so children that are really struggling to go to school for all those reasons. So today is about, let's bring an awareness of what it's like for those children. So we're going to do a lot of group work. Me and Gina will be doing most of the role play, so, you know, I'm not an actress. I don't ever claim to be, but it is.
Oh yes, you are.
It is just me and Gina, and I'm the adult and Gina's the child. So after my bit, Gina's going to do an awareness of local safeguarding board for West Sussex, East Sussex, Brighton and Hove, and the section 8.8 within that, which is all about domestic violence and the legislation around that. And she's going to make points that current child protection policy regarding domestic violence is a huge issue, even if the child has not actually seen the incidents. So even if they're in the next room, that is a child protection issue. So then we're going to do our first exercise, and we've got workbooks for you, which I'll pass around now. Jeannie will, thank you. Try not to look for them at the moment until we tell you which page to turn to. Well, you can when Gina does her legislation, because it's all in there. The agenda's in the front for you. So our first exercise will be a dialogue between me and Gina, then we'll be asking you to get into groups. On the back of your cards, your nameplates, you've got numbers, and when I say that, will be the group that you go into. We're into groups of 3. I'll be asking you to write down what you see are the effects from the dialogues that we're reading. Then we have a break, then we've got another dialogue with me and Gina. And then we've got a case study, because we think you'll be fed up with our voices by then. So we've got a case study for you guys to read. And out of the day, we're going to be flip charting. What do you think are the concerns of these dialogues, of these scenarios that we're reading? What is the concerns that are facing these children living with this abuse? But also, working really closely with Children's Services at the moment, because we've got somebody from CAP coming in today, and Jenny Robson, who's a senior social worker, coming in to talk to us about what information do they need in order to be able to act on a child protection referral, and how we can get our child protection referrals more consistent. But also looking at what Children's Services have to look at in child protection referrals is the protective factors, because I think we put a lot of the risk factors and a lot about the incident, but there's also some really good positive, some of the children have got some real good positive things going on in their life. And that is what Children's Services also have to look at. What are the positives? What are the extended family? What support they're getting? You know, what do they do at school? Have they got friends and things like that? And that's also what we need to include, because that makes a big, you've got to look at the positives in the child as well, not just the negatives. So we'll be doing an exercise also around what are the positives in these dialogues in this case study. And then they're coming after lunch. You've got your lunch vouchers. Caitlin, let me give you yours before I forget. Lunch bit, so we've got tea break at 11 for a quarter of an hour, we've got lunch at 12:15 till 5 to 1, they're very specific times, but which often changes times around loads. And then the afternoon will be about flip charting all the concerns. This morning is about the dialogue, about you getting into groups, and after lunch it's about us coming together as bigger groups to actually flip chart what do you see as the concerns of these children and the protective factors. And then we've also got a guest speaker coming in called David Stewart, who is a child protection performance advisor. So he's an independent chair of child protection conferences. So I've asked him to come in for us to see the process when it leads up, what leads up to going to conference, and what's the timescale around that, and then what happens after that. So what decisions do they make to put a child on a plan? What decisions do they make around Section 47s and care orders? And then what information do they need to take the children off plans? And actually, where do we sit in that child protection conference? Because we've got to look at whether we sit there as IDFAs or whether we sit there as a support for the victim. My understanding is we sit there as an IDFA service, because we have to be honest when there's risk, and if that person has engaged with us, we have to be honest in that conference that actually they're possibly not safeguarding their children as well as they could be. So all them things involved in child protection conferences and all the timescales, etc. And then we have a break at 10 to 3. But these times might be a bit skewed because I've got both CAP and Children's Services coming at the same time now because they had a meeting they couldn't rearrange, so they're coming in, both of them coming after lunch. So we might not run, but we will make the breaks the correct time. And then we'll have a couple of party games at the end of the day with prizes. But they're not drastic, you know, they're not really exciting prizes, they're good prizes.
You mean it's not a week in the Algarve?
Sorry?
It's not a week in the Algarve?
No.
Oh,
it's
no.
not. No, it's not. There isn't a planned fire testing today. Does everyone know where the toilets are?
Yeah.
Just out here, just around on the right. There isn't a planned fire test. If the fire bell does go on, we go out to main reception, out the entrance, and we meet by the black jug. So it's about 1 o'clock.
Buy it.
Yeah, we meet in the black jug, absolutely, yeah. So, over to Gina.
Yes. I just want to give you the briefest summary overview of child protection history, background, and then I'll move on to what the law says here and now about children and domestic violence, because actually we can narrow that down to just a few pages, which we've given you in the handout. I mean, child protection and safeguarding, as we call it now, protection and safeguarding, has been an issue for humankind ever since they existed, because if you don't protect your children, the tribe or the species is going to no longer exist. But the first time we first started to get legislation, in other words, acts of parliament, and they all look pretty much like this, the same sort of colours, the same size, these are acts of parliament. First one we got regarding children, we got it because some very influential, good-hearted people made the point to the government in the late 19th century, about 1890, that whilst the country had laws to protect animals from maltreatment, there was nothing to protect children. So we got the first law around 1890 that gave the state the right to remove children from cruel parents. That's how it was phrased back then. So throughout the 20th century we get bits of legislation here and there about children and protecting them. The two key themes are protecting children and promoting their welfare. Those go hand in hand. Much greater emphasis now on promoting their well-being alongside protecting them. Biggest landmark in child protection came with this 1989 Children Act. It was the most comprehensive law ever passed in the country about children and protecting them and making decent provision for children that couldn't live with their birth parents. So this was a huge deal. Our current child protection system is based on this Act of Parliament now. Basically, what happens in child protection is, how the system develops, is you get an absolutely shocking case that comes to the public's attention. Key ones, for example, Victoria Climbié, it's a name you will have the ones there, and of course Baby P. Now, we get fairly decent child protection on the back of this. Okay, the law's passed in 1989, it takes a good 10 years, to be quite honest, for the actual systems to kick in and start to deliver this. But after this, we have the Victoria Climbié thing, and what happens is the government, everyone really cares about it, there's a lot of pressure, governments put a lot of money into commissioning the right sort of people, hopefully, to run inquiries and find out exactly what went wrong, how did this tragedy happen, and then after the inquiry, recommendations are made of how to improve the system to stop this kind of thing happening again, and that usually, the inquiry into the tragedy, usually produces another one of these, another Act of Parliament. Now this alone, if you read one of these, they're actually really great alternative to sleeping pills. If you read one of these, you wouldn't have a great idea of how, okay, I kind of get it, but how do we actually put that into practice? So every time we get one of these, the government publish volumes of guidance. They used to be in books with nice colours that were the same size as that, but now they're sort of wads of paper like this, or the documents you get online. So that's your basic bit of law, but it comes with all this guidance for the likes of social services, you guys, police, schools, to put into practice. The lead child protection agencies, social services and the police. The other statutory child protection agency is the NSPCC. So I'd say that 2006 was a big point. We got, on the back of Victoria Climbié inquiry, we got something called Every Child Matters, which is a fairly short document that gives us a good agreed overview of what represents